2021 was the 45th anniversary of the annual tokusatsu series and originator of Power Rangers, Super Sentai. To celebrate the milestone, that year's season Gokaiger featured plenty of homages and callbacks to their Sentai predecessors, mainly in the form of the Sentai gears. Gears infused with the power of their Sentai senpais. But while I may cover Gokaiger at some point, we're not here to talk about it today. You've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the title, you know where I'm going with this. We're going back another 10 years to the 35th anniversary of Super Sentai, Kaizouku Sentai Gokaiger. Gokaiger started airing on February 13th, 2011, joining Kamen Rider O's in the superhero time block and replacing the previous Sentai Gokaiger. The show sees the titular team of space pirates coming to Earth in search of the greatest treasure in the universe and do battle with the Zangyak Empire, villains that have already conquered a majority of the universe. The previous 34 Sentai teams lost their powers after the Legend War, using them to drive back the Zangyak. The lost powers were transformed into the Ranger Keys, which allow their users to use the original Rangers' suits and abilities. There are also, of course, the collectible toy gimmick. There's a lot of these that you can buy. The Gokaigers have already gathered a majority of the keys, but to fully utilize their power and get Earth's treasure, they must also obtain each Sentai's great power, which can only be bestowed to them by a member of each original team. This means that the show is chock full of guest stars and cameos from the veteran Rangers. It really feels like a love letter to the fans of the series, and it's a lot of fun to see the Gokaigers interact with their predecessors. It isn't just about the fan service and the cameos though. The story of the Gokaigers themselves is actually quite compelling, and the cast is one of my favorite Sentai teams of all time. The team leader and Gokai Red is the daring Captain Marvelous, former pupil of Aka Red, a character from the previous 30th anniversary movie. Marvelous is a strong fighter, but he has a thing or two to learn about opening up to others. Gokai Blue is Joe, a serious, no-nonsense sword fighter, and Marvelous's right-hand man. Yellow is Luca, a tomboyish, money-loving gal who gets what she wants. Luca is notably one of the first roles of Seiyu Ichimichi Mao, also known as just Mao, who also voiced Washi Pink in Q-Ranger, among many other anime and toku voice roles. Green is Don, who is intelligent but wimpy. Everyone calls him Doc. He is the crew's cook and serves as one of the forces holding the group together. The other person holding the group together is Ahim, a former princess of a world conquered by Zangyak. She's polite and sometimes naive, but she's also just as determined and strong-willed as the others. There's also the team mascot, the robotic parrot Navi, voiced by Yukari Tamura, who you may also recognize from her many anime roles. The final member of the team, Gokai Silver, joins later in the 17th episode. His name is Ikari Gai, the sole Earthling of the group, and a Sentai fanboy with a heart of gold. He was granted his powers by the spirits of 3 Sentai heroes that fell in battle. For the folks that have seen Akira Ranger and or my previous Sentai video about it, Akagi is a lot like Guy, but a little less wholesome. This cast is great, and they have some amazing chemistry. Despite their differences, they share a strong familial bond, with each member bouncing off of the others for great interactions. The Gokaigers' personalities shine through in-suit as well. One of my favorite bits of in-suit action is when the Gokaigers trade weapons, switching from one sword and one gun each to their own fighting styles. Joe and Luca dual-wield swords, while Doc and Ahim use the guns. It makes for some fun choreography and in-battle character interaction. Even when they use the Ranger Keys to transform into previous Sentai, it's never not clear who is who. It's a lot of fun not only to see the old suits in action again, but also to see them played with a different energy than in their original shows, especially after the former Rangers themselves have given the team their blessing. Gokaiger was always meant to be an anniversary celebration season, but not always to the extent that it ended up being, as 2011 was also the year a series of natural disasters changed the course of Japanese history. On March 11th, 2011, Japan was hit by the Tohoku earthquake, which caused a tsunami and the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. The tragedy left Japan in a state of economic and humanitarian disarray. The Japanese government's response to the disasters inspired the creation of Shin Godzilla, directed by Hideaki Anno of Evangelion fame. Shin Godzilla has heavy political elements and treats its Godzilla as a true force of nature. In a much different way, the production of Gokaiger was also affected by the disasters. Veteran Sentai actor Teruaki Ogawa, who had previously played Ninja Red Sasuke in Kakuranger and Black Knight Hyuga in Gingaman, started the Tokusatsu Hero Twitter account, gathering messages from fellow tokusatsu actors in hopes to encourage and cheer up the public, particularly the youth. Ogawa had already been asked to appear on Gokaiger as Black Knight Hyuga, but he also convinced Gingaman co-star Kazuki Maihara to come on once again as Ginga Red. His involvement with the Twitter account also played a part in many other former Sentai actors contacting the producers and requesting to make appearances in Gokaiger. The result was almost every single one of the 34 previous Sentai teams having some representative present in either the main TV series or in the companion movies. Listing every single one would make this video hours long, but here are some of my personal favorite guest episodes. Episode 14, starring Red Racer Kyosuke Jinnai, is absolutely hysterical. Bokenju's chief is as cool as ever in episode 21, which also features a returning villain. The Hurricaneger 2-part tribute has a true ninja pirate team-up. Jetman's tribute episode captures the original's melancholic feel while still having some really cool fan service. And Ryo from Dire Ranger gets some great out-of-suit action in his tribute. Each cameo is a real treat for longtime fans of Sentai, while new viewers may enjoy a glimpse into the history of the series. I myself was familiar with Power Rangers, but was very new to Super Sentai when I first watched Gokaiger, and the guest appearances got me very excited to watch more of the original series, and I don't think I would be as much of a Sentai fan if Gokaiger hadn't introduced me to so many of its legends. A quick sidebar. Earlier I mentioned the Superhero Time Block and Sentai's sister series Kamen Rider. The Kamen Rider that joined Gokaiger in the Superhero Time Block after the end of O's was Forze, the direction of which was also affected by the Tohoku earthquake, being a more lighthearted entry in the usually more serious Kamen Rider series. Forze takes place in a high school, and its rider star's goal is to make 100 friends. Comedy has always been a part of Kamen Rider, but I don't think any other series has done it quite like Forze. That is not a diss on Forze, I love Forze. May discuss that series another time. Back on topic though, Gokaiger utilizes the Sentai formula to great effect. Each episode usually starring one of the members of the team as the center, and learning a little something, often from the special tribute cameo characters. The various one-off villains allow for comedy or drama depending on what the tribute and episode plot calls for. While the one-off villains provide the framework, the recurring villains advance the plot, and one of the best in Gokaiger is Basco, a rogue pirate and traitor to Aqua Red and Captain Marvelous. He is initially in possession of the Ranger Keys of the 6th and extra heroes, and gives the Gokaigers their most difficult challenges in battle. His arcs are some of the most intense in Gokaiger, and he really spices up the main plotline. The Gokaigers battle the Zangyuk, meet Sentai legends, and obtain new powers for 46 episodes of Sentai goodness, all while gaining an appreciation for the people of Earth and the heroes that fought to protect them. The remaining 5 episodes make up the final 2 arcs, and they are fantastic. First is the final showdown with Basco, which serves as a final test for the team's trust, as they take in Basco's helper monkey Sally, after Basco seemingly betrays her. Basco initially gains the upper hand, defeating the Gokaigers and stealing their keys, after betraying Sally for real and blowing up a bomb he had planted on her. The Gokaigers minus Marvelous regain their powers and go to battle Basco, but still cannot beat him. Before Basco can kill them, Marvelous returns, having rested to heal his wounds. In the ensuing battle, Marvelous pierces Basco's foot through his own foot to settle the fight in one final blow. The two are battered, but Basco gets up first. However, ultimately, Marvelous is saved by a trinket from Sally, while Basco collapses from his wounds and disappears. Then, having collected all 34 great powers, the Gokaigers finally obtain the greatest treasure in the universe, the power to change reality as they please. Using the treasure would come at the price of the existence of all Super Sentai. The Zangiak start seriously invading Earth, and the Gokaigers meet a few more Sentai legends who are helping the people even without their powers. Goshi of the Zyurangers urges Guy to use the treasure to stop the Zangiak, even knowing the consequences. But the Gokaigers decide to not rely on the treasure, and instead choose to seize their dream with their own hands, going into the final battle against Zangiak. Gokaiger's finale is truly epic, and an amazing showing for both the returning legacy cameo characters and the Gokaigers themselves. The entirety of the Gokaiger series is really just top-notch Sentai fare, with fantastic writing, action, and practical effects. The only thing I'm not really a fan of is the 3D CGI, but it's not like that's a complaint unique to Gokaiger. The currently running Sentai Dawn Brothers has some really unattractive CG, but I'm still enjoying everything else about it. The Gokaiger's appearances aren't limited to TV. There were a ton of movies during the airing of the TV series, as well as crossovers and comebacks. There's the summer movie The Flying Ghost Ship, which was double billed with the O's summer movie, and features a ton of past Sentai villains, as well as a straight-to-video special where Marvelous and Guy get fused together. They also had the Versus movies with the previous Sentai Gokaiger, and later the following series Go Busters. Both movies are chock full of fan service, and the Go Busters movie even features Gokai changes over the mecha, which is super cool. The Gokaigers were heavily featured in the first Superhero Taisen movie, a crossover film with sister series Kamen Rider. Avengers Endgame, eat your heart out. They also crossed over with Space Sheriff Gavan, another Toei-produced tokusatsu series from the 80s. This movie was way better than it needed to be, especially since I didn't even know Gavan existed before I first watched it. Favorite bit is probably when Denji Blue and Battle Kenya show up. They were both played by the same actor as Gavan. Never would have guessed, I know. Toei was trying to reboot a bunch of their older Toku series at the time, including the rest of the Metal Heroes series, which Gavan is the first entry in. The second Superhero Taisen featured the reboot Gavan, and the Gokaigers were still prominent in that film. 5 years after Gokaiger, for the Sentai 40th anniversary, the Sentai from that year, the Zyurangers met the Gokaigers in a 2-part crossover event. Marvelous was also a main player in the Strongest Battle miniseries, where many Sentai Rangers fought in a team-based tournament to determine the strongest and grant their wish. The previously mentioned Zenkaiger's 6th member, Tsukaiser, has powers based around Gokaiger, and Tsukaiser's crew also meet a few of the Gokaigers in a recent crossover special. The comeback with the most fanfare has to be Ten Gokaiger though. Ten Gokaiger was a movie released during the 10th anniversary of Gokaiger and sees the return of the whole crew. And I gotta say, it was a real treat to see them all play the Gokaigers again after all this time. They released some new versions of the toys as well, of course. Gokaiger is a testament to the long-standing history of the Super Sentai series and its quest to bring smiles to the children. During a time of tragedy, they managed to create a show that celebrated its own history while gathering talent from the over 30 years of that history to give hope to the youth of the day and those that had grown up loving Sentai. Here's to the 10 years since, and to the next 10 years too. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I was really happy to see the response to the Akiba Ranger video, and I hope you enjoyed this one too. It's a lot of work, but I really love making these videos, so if you could help me out by subscribing and liking and doing all the YouTube stuff, I'd really appreciate that. Let's get to 1,000 subs sometime soon, how about that? Okay, thanks. I'll see you in the next one, hopefully.